So I'm back again today with another one of these kind of raw style videos. I hope you don't mind again, but I'm not doing any fancy editing, or I don't have my lights or anything on today. We're just setting up the camera and going for it and seeing how much we can get done today while this one is down beside me. I've got my cup of tea. As you can see, I'm rocking the mum bun today. I didn't have time to wash my hair today, so it's been dry shampooed and shoved up in a bun. But hopefully if you're a mum and in the same situation as me with a new baby, you'll be able to relate. And yeah, we're keeping it real. So just going to try and get this video done while she's happy. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you all so much for your response to my last video. I'd said to you guys it was my first one back and I was quite nervous about it, and you were all so lovely and I got such nice comments that I feel so much more comfortable filming today, because I feel like I'm just talking to you guys. So thank you for that. And today I'm going to be talking about Autumn's birth story. So what happened, it wasn't quite what we had planned, so I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about that really. So just to give you a quick background, I have 3 girls now. My eldest is Caitlin, who is 12. My middle daughter is Elle, who is 4.5, and now I have Autumn, who is 6 weeks old this week. And Caitlin, my first, I had a really long labour. It was like a 21-hour labour, and I ended up with an emergency section because she was stuck. Elle, I had a planned section, which was a whole different experience. It was completely different having a planned section to an emergency one. It was a really nice experience. I've only got positive things to say about it, and that's what I chose to do again this time for Autumn. However, she was booked in, well, we were booked in to go in on the Friday to have my planned or elective caesarean section with her, and we were all set for that. But I've been having some tightenings since I want to say it was before 37 weeks, so maybe about 35, 36 weeks, I started having tightenings. I'd been in hospital for a consultant's appointment because I was seeing a consultant regularly because I was going to be having a section. And she had a feel in my tummy and felt the tightenings and was a little bit concerned that I might be in labour. This was like really early on, 35, 36 weeks. And she sent me down to triage at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. They got me all hooked up to the tracer, and they could see that I was having tightenings, but my cervix wasn't dilated at all. So they said like I wasn't in labour, and I was having contractions, but it wasn't progressing on to labour. So I got sent home. This happened numerous times. The contractions really didn't stop. They just kind of lessened sometimes, and then sometimes they'd get worse, and I was told just to rest. So I had loads of weeks of just kind of resting as much as I could, and it was just a complete pain. But yeah, that had been going on for a while, and every so often my midwife would send me in to the hospital because she was concerned, and they would do the trace again, and they could see I was having contractions, but again my cervix wasn't dilated, nothing was happening. So I was booked in for the section on the Friday to go and have Autumn. On the Monday I woke up and I felt like I was having contractions again. This time I felt like they were different. Like I say, I went into labour with my first. Even though I ended up having an emergency section, I did have labour first, so I remember what it was like, and I knew that this was proper labour. It woke me up about 3-4 in the morning, and I'd started having, the best way to describe it I think is it feels like kind of cramps like you have when you have your period, and they were waking me up. I was falling asleep in between them. They were maybe coming every like half an hour maybe, and I would kind of doze off in between times, but they just weren't going away. And usually when I was having the tightenings before, they would kind of like ease off for a while, and maybe I'd have like a day where they weren't there and then they'd come back again and things like that, but these just weren't going away. So by 7 in the morning, are you okay, Papa? So by 7 in the morning, they'd been going on for quite a few hours, and I decided it was probably a good idea to start timing them. So I got up, and because of course I wasn't up at that time because I didn't have a new baby then. Now I would be up at that time. So I got up and I started timing them, and they were coming sort of every 10 minutes at that point. My sister was due to be coming over for a coffee that morning with my nephew, so I messaged her and I said just still come over because it might not come to anything. and Andrew went off to work. They were still coming every 10 minutes, and that had been going on for a little while, so and they'd progressed from every half hour, so they were increasing. So because I was due in for a section, I wasn't really sure what would happen at this point, so I phoned up the triage at the hospital, explained to them what was happening, and they said it was probably a good idea to get me in and get me on the tracer again. So that was fine, and I phoned Andrew. He arranged to come home from work. By the time he got home, they'd kind of stopped a little bit, and they were only every 20 minutes. They're not stopped, sorry, they'd become a bit further apart. They were only every 20 minutes. And I did half think maybe I should phone back and just say it's not worth coming in. But he'd already come home from work, so I thought I might as well go in and just check what's happening. So we went in about, I think it was probably about 11 in the morning. We went in. Andrew hadn't been in work for long when he had to come away again. And in the car, I don't know if it was the vibrations or just from moving about and things to get from the house to the car, but they started increasing again, and they were back to sort of every 10 minutes. But they never got any closer than that, really. They were probably every 10 minutes. So we got in, and they could see on the tracer they were like really full-on contractions. They were quite strong. They were strong contractions. And they were like, yep, this looks like you're in labour, and it was all kind of, okay, this is happening. So the midwife checked my cervix, and she said, your cervix can be hard, medium, soft, and then it starts dilating. And she's like, yours is hard, so it's not even, you're not in labour at all. She's just like, you're not in labour. And she's like, you're not dilating, your cervix isn't even soft. So at that point I was like, oh, okay, so nothing's happening again. And I said, right, what happens now? And she's like, well, you'll probably go home again, but we'll wait till the doctor comes round and just go over it with her and see what she says. So I was kind of all set to go home. They'd given me lunch at this point, and I was lying on the bed, and I was still having the contractions, but they were just sort of every 10 minutes apart, maybe 5 minutes by that point, I think. And I was lying on the bed, and I had another contraction, which wasn't unusual, and then I heard and felt a big pop inside me. And I knew it was going to be my waters, and I was like, oh my goodness, my waters are broken. And the only time that's happened before was with Caitlin, because I went into labour with her, but they were popped for me somewhat, like during labour they had to pop my waters. They've never gone on their own, but I was sure it was my waters, and sure enough I stood up and my waters had broken. Now if you're pregnant and you haven't had a baby before, it's not like in the films usually where it's like a big gush of water. It's usually kind of like a slow trickle, and it'll come over, like you'll get some, and then you'll get a bit more and a little bit later, and it'll just keep coming. So I went to go to the toilet, I was very wet and I knew my waters had broken. I had a pad on, and I put it in the bin, and before I'd gone to the toilet I said to Andrew, go and get the midwife and let her know that my waters are broken. So when I came back, the midwife was there with Andrew, and I said my waters are broken, and I could tell she didn't believe me. She was kind of looking like, we've just told you you're going home and you've just said your waters are broken, as if like I'm kind of just trying to stay. At that point the doctor came round, and as she came round I just got the biggest contraction ever. It was so full on, and then straight away followed by another one, and they were coming like thick and fast, like minutes apart. She brought me gas and air, and I straight away was on the gas and air. At that point the anaesthetist came round, and they got my cannula in, which is in the thing you get in your arm to get like your drip and your your drip in when you're in theatre. And at this point I still didn't know, because labour with some people can go on for days and days. My sister was in labour for like about 3 days, I think. So I still didn't really, I didn't know if my baby was coming today. I still didn't even know if this was going to like stop and I was going to get sent home. Excuse me, I'm just wiping. She's got a little bit sicky there. You okay? A little bit spit up. There we go. I've got Autumn on my knee here, look. She's such a good baby, aren't you? You just chilling out, mummy. Yeah, I still didn't know if I was even going to have the baby then, or if I was going to just get sent home again later. I didn't really know what was happening, and the anaesthetist came round. They were quite concerned because I'd had lunch, and you're not supposed to eat anything. Like when I was having my section on the Friday, I'd been told not to eat anything from the night before, and I was prepared to do that. So I just had lunch, so they were quite concerned about that. So they were trying to work out timings and how much I'd had to eat and how long they'd have to wait and all this kind of thing. And I said to them, oh, so am I going to have a section today then? And the surgeon said, you're going to have it now. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So they kind of rushed everything through. The midwife came through, handed the compression stockings that are for keeping for blood clots and things. They put them on your feet. They handed them to Andrew and said, like, you get them on so that we can do other things at the same time, because normally the midwives would help you put them on. So he was putting them on. They were like hooking me up to things, and I didn't really know what was going on. And then next thing, they were ready to wheel me through to theatre. And at this point I still didn't really I hadn't really fully grasped that I was having a baby. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'll just walk through. And I started to walk through, and I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain, so they had to put me in a wheelchair and wheel me through, and I was still sucking on the gas and air. And they got round and to theatre, and because at that point it was then emergency section, because although I was having a planned section, like that was my plan, it wasn't the plan to have it then. So all the theatre staff, they were on their tea break, and they'd had to come out of their tea break, and I was apologising for interrupting their cake. And then by the time that they were ready to start operating, they had said, the midwives were saying to the anaesthetist, if you don't get the spinal in soon, this baby's going to come. So I did know at that stage that things were kind of progressing quite fast. And then when they were ready to start surgery, it had only been maybe an hour and a half since I'd arrived, and they'd said to me that my cervix was hard, it wasn't dilated. It had only been an hour and a half had passed, and I was already like 5 centimetres dilated by then. So if I hadn't been, if I hadn't come into the hospital when I had, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have made it in time. So it was a good thing I did come in. And then they did my section. This was my 3rd section, so there was a little bit more complications than the last 2, in that some of my scar tissue had attached to things internally. That can happen, and it's something they speak to you about, so I knew that that was something that could happen, and it just took a little bit longer because they had to cut away a little bit more tissue and things. They said that they try to keep it as much like a natural birth as possible now for you. So after they cut me open, they said to Andrew, we can see her head, do you want to come and see? So he actually got the chance to go down and see her appearing out of my tummy. And I'd said to him, you don't have to if you don't want to, because I know I wouldn't want to see that because I'm quite squeamish. But I think he did. And then they delivered her, and she didn't cry, which gave me such a fright, because you know, like in films and things, and you see and you're like waiting for that cry to know that they're okay, and she didn't cry. But as it turned out, she's 6 weeks old, and she doesn't tend to cry a lot. It's just she's not really a big crier. So yeah, that worried me about the fact that she hadn't cried. And then they took her over to the other side of the room to give her oxygen, and of course, because she hadn't made a noise, and they said that she needed oxygen, I was panicking at this stage. And you're stuck on this bed. Andrew's in his scrubs, he was there, and they got him to come over next to Autumn to be with her. And she just needs a little bit of help, she just needs a little bit of oxygen. It wasn't anything scary, but of course, because I didn't know that, I mean, they were telling me, don't worry, it's okay, but you kind of think they're just going to say that anyway. But I was panicking, and I kept looking over to Andrew, like, to get some kind of signal that she was okay. But she was fine. They gave her some oxygen, she was doing great. They took a bit longer to kind of finish up my surgery, to finish sewing me up and everything. So yeah, that took a bit longer. And then they gave me Autumn over to me, and she was on me for skin to skin, and that was brilliant. Normally she'd be handed straight to you almost. They would like clean her up a little bit and then give her to you, but because she needed that bit of oxygen, that's the only reason they had to take her away to the other side of the room. Normally she would just be put straight on you. So as soon as she was fine with the oxygen and everything, they gave her back to me. And well, not back to me because I'd never held her yet, but she'd been in my tummy. And I got to hold her, and that was just lovely. It is a little bit tricky when you're lying flat to kind of hold your baby on your chest, and especially because you've got everything going on down there, they're sewing you up and things. But yeah, they were soon finished. We got wheeled through to recovery, and I got a chance to give her a proper cuddle and things, and she was very quickly latched on and feeding. which was amazing because that was something I really wanted to do. I hadn't done it with my other two, and I really wanted to feed Autumn myself. So yeah, that was something that I was really pleased that happened so naturally. And I'm going to make a video all about, maybe more than one video actually, about breastfeeding, things that have helped me and my experience and things like that, because like I say, it's very new to me. The nurses came round and offered us both tea and toast, and that was the best tea and toast you'll ever have. Is just after you have a baby. It's just, oh, amazing, because you're so tired and you've been full of adrenaline, and yeah, you just need to kind of refuel. So we had some tea and toast. Autumn fed, they did some bloods and things with me, and then we got taken back to the ward, and then the girls got to come in and visit their new baby sister, which was obviously so special. And yeah, I was dying to see the girls. The whole time in recovery I kept asking when can we get onto the ward, because I was just dying to see the girls and I was dying for them to meet their sister. And if you watch my last video, you will know she's been getting on brilliant since we got her home. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know what all had happened, because it wasn't what we had planned. It ended up being an emergency section rather than a planned one, and of course I had labour. I had been contracting and having really bad contractions and gas and air and things that I hadn't expected to have. So yeah, that was all a bit different, and I hope to try and make a video about having a planned section and an emergency section, and the differences, and so you know what to expect if you were going in for a planned section, which is a completely different experience. It's much more relaxed and yeah, a much nicer experience. Not that this wasn't, it was special, but it was just very different because I was in labour when I went in, whereas with a planned one you're not. So yeah, that was the story of how Autumn arrived into the world. She's here just now. It feels like a long time ago now, but it was only 6 weeks ago. But yeah, a wonderful experience anyway, and all three experiences were lovely. To look back on, maybe not the time, but to look back on, they were really lovely. So I wanted to share that with you. I hope you enjoyed hearing about how little Autumn arrived, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up to date with my videos. I'm going to be making lots more baby related videos in the coming weeks. And thank you again for taking me as I am, like this, in my raw state, in my living room on the floor. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone sticking with me while I had a little break. But yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video, and thanks for watching. Bye!